world. So a big clap for Ekaterina Matbeva.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. All right, we are here. Oh, wow. That's quite a stage. ¿Cómo estamos? Bien? Sí, los intérpretes van a matarme. Okay, good. Who speaks English here? Just raise your hand. Say, yeah, me, yeah. Yeah? Okay, I'll put it here. Oh. All right. ¿Quién habla español? ¿No? Nadie. Entonces, ¿quién habla español está durmiendo? Ok. Parleremo in italiano? Sì? No? Italiano? Sì? Oh. Português? Falamos em português? Sim, sim, sim. Muito bom. Nous pouvons parler français? Français, un peu suffisant. Sprechen Deutsch? Ja, genau. Mówię po polsku. Po polsku, tak? Tak? Tak. A po-ruski? Da. Oh, okay. And Chungan? No? Chungan? Okay. All right, so we will speak today mostly in English. Sometimes maybe we'll switch to other languages. As I've been presented, so I'm extreme fever. Typically in English, I'm called Kate. En español, en Argentina, soy Caterina. Pero en España, soy Catarina. And then in different languages, I actually go by my local version name, even though it's all the same because it's Greek Katrina from Catharsis. And here today, we're in a special place. It's a very, I would say, well, not like sacred place, but you'll get what I mean in a moment. Right, are we ready to start? Good. All right. When I was a little girl, well, my father, passionate about astronomy, gave me a telescope. So I spent quite some time looking at the stars. And quite quickly, I discovered my favorite, well, constellations, star sectors, and this is one of them. It's called Pleiades, Pleiades, Seven Sisters. And what's so special about that place is that the place where the stars are born. Isn't it beautiful? The place where the stars are born. It's like crazy amount of energy coming there. And if you look at it, it's actually pretty easy to find in the sky. Because when you go and look at the Orion, and we all know Tres Marias, yeah, they're called in Spanish, but the Orion's belt, Orion, just a little bit like the side of Orion, you'll find Seven Sisters. And when I was looking at the stars as a girl, as a teenager, and now as an adult, I noticed one thing, that pretty much the sky, even though it's like shifting, like the Earth is shifting, but the sky is the same for us. We can be in the northern hemisphere or southern one, and constellations can slightly change. But there are some places and some constellations that you can always find in the sky. And typically, that would be the Orion's belt, right? And the Orion's constellation. And when we dig into history and all their, well, discoveries, we would find out that a lot of civilizations, especially Asian civilizations, would try to align with this belt, yeah, their constructions. That's quite fascinating. We still don't know so much about our roots. Well, while talking about the stars, obviously, well, we need to kind of think, okay, where are we? And when we look at all these galaxies, suddenly we discover that we are so tiny, so small. Yeah, so our planet is somewhere there in the Milky Way. Here we've got these giant clusters of galaxies, and there are billions and billions of galaxies, and especially with James Webb Telescope, new one, now we're just discovering further faraway galaxies. But yet, we are here, and we matter. Yeah, how it happens, so like, we are actually here, and there is so much diversity. Even like today, we're speaking in different languages, yeah? Speaking different cultures. Argentina is composed of so many cultures. There's such a rich heritage. That's what I love as well about this country. And here, when we start really diving into, say, the story, we would go from like astronomy to my own story that when I was, well, a child, I would be traveling as well quite a lot because, well, my parents, and then in teenage years, I would go on study trips. And typically I would be around Europe because, well, I grew up in between Moscow, Warsaw, and then all over, like studying in Spain and in Italy and in France and Germany, like everywhere where you could imagine in Europe. And while at 14, 15, I visited these different countries, I discovered that my 3 languages that I spoke at the time were not enough. Even more, I couldn't get people to do something that I was asking to do. Like, for instance, just to come to France and say, well, do you speak English? And they would say, yes. And ask, could you please bring me a glass of water? And I would be, yes. And I would be still waiting for a glass of water. So, at that point, I realized how diverse we were in our communication and the way how we would be relating to each other. And it just started coming to me that I would like, at some point, to open a multilingual, multicultural center that eventually evolved into Amalingua. Well, my company today is a school where we train languages, cultures, and soft skills. Great. But then, like after my European, let's say, period, I actually went to Asia, and I happened to work there and also to live there to study, and I discovered that there was even bigger difference. And when you look at Europe, when you look at Asia, and later on, of course, Latin America, and all the diversity, you discover that people, even how people perceive time, perceive space, relationships, emotions, is so distinct. And it made me wonder, all right, in this case, how can we indeed connect in order to really understand each other? Like, if it's just language, okay, then let's work on words. Like somebody was saying about accents. Don't know, I can play around here. No, we can start talking about, well, cup of tea. Whatever could be, like we can play with accents. It's okay. But it's not just that. It's not just about tonality. It's not just about words. It's more. And here, it came to me, well, that it's not always about the language. It's also about the culture. And when we travel, especially when we feel that we would like to go somewhere and like to be there for a while, as in one of the talks during this week was the concept of slow nomading, when you would go to a particular country and you would stay there for 6-8 months. Great. So there you need something apart from language. So if we look here, we can see, that's a lovely quintet, as well, like taken by James Webb Telescope, but then you have here IQ, EQ, LQ, and CQ. Well, can you please guess, what is IQ? Okay, so intelligence. EQ? Emotional, good. So emotional, we all know that emotional, it's about, well, being able to control our emotions, being aware of our emotions, right? So in our own language, let's say, if you have one, if you are bilingual, multilingual, so in different languages, right? Then if we go and look at LQ, what is LQ? Good, but there is another one. It's not only language, that's the point. That's a trick here. What's universal? Yay, good. So, if we go and look at this gentleman, maybe you know him, Jack Ma, I mean, quite a story, in China, as like a Chinese entrepreneur, he would say that in order to become a successful leader, you need IQ, EQ, and LQ. And he would say that love, in this case, would be the skill, ability to be loving and kind. In other words, he's talking about compassion. And indeed, when we talk about emotional intelligence, like it could also embrace, this part of love intelligence. But because when we look at the world right now, what's going on there, we can definitely say that love intelligence should be put aside. So compassion, right? And when we go back and we see, so got IQ, EQ, LQ, and CQ, cultural intelligence, that's right. And we go to cultural intelligence. And cultural intelligence has various definitions. And for us, while as well, like we're traveling or we're hosting people from other cultures, it's very important to remember that it's our ability how we can adjust to another culture, how we can change our behavior when we are getting immersed into, well, another culture, right? Like, for instance, if we know that if we schedule a meeting in Latin America, or not only in Latin America, but in specific countries, at, let's say, 3 p.m., we might expect people to be a little bit late. And it wouldn't be insulting, it would be okay. So we will be adjusting if we're coming from, let's say, somewhere from Central Europe, or United States, where we need to be on time. So we're adjusting, right? And we're changing our behavior. I'll talk more on that. Then what happens? When we are learning cultural intelligence, we need to take into account 3 components. One of them, definitely, is theoretical. It's about our knowledge, what we read about different cultures, right? If, as here, lots of people learn English or other languages, so what you need to do, you need to learn more about the culture of that language. So it's not just a language, so you learn about history, about economy, perhaps sociocultural context. You have to understand better, the natives. Then it's about mindfulness, coming back to emotional intelligence, feeling how you can process your emotions, not only in your own language, not only in your own context, like familiar context, but also what happens to you when you speak in another language. What happens to you and to your emotions? How can you feel? Can you actually feel deep in that language or not yet? Can you develop that? How do you feel negative emotions in that language? How do you feel love? How do you describe those emotions in another language and being in another sociocultural context? And of course, it's all translated into behavior, how we behave in that context, as we already talked a little bit about, right? So how we adjust or how we create another personality. That's a little bit, about it in a minute. So when we talk about culturally intelligent people, we try to think about, well-trained, well-educated, skilled people, individuals who know quite well how to manage their behavioral repertoire. And you can develop new behaviors. Because if you go to new contexts, especially new sociocultural contexts, you need to adjust. And you may get out of your comfort zone and try, literally to copy the locals. And that's when we talk about this thing of how to feel local while going global. Because the thing is, if you're coming as an expert, as a nomad, you might feel okay, I'm an expert, I will be with other foreigners. Well, true. But what about trying out being just with the locals? What about trying out doing everything what the locals do, facing all the struggles, and then seeing how you feel and what changes in you? So when you go on your trip, and let's say you come to another country and you speak their language, and maybe you speak quite well, you can't just say that, all right, you're bilingual, maybe you are, that's amazing, but also say that you're bicultural. Because if you don't know some basic things, let's say something related, as in English, we're talking a lot about idioms, set phrases, but actually something about untranslatable words, right? Think about anything, in Spanish, or in Portuguese, one of the most famous examples would be saudade, right? Saudade, how would you explain it? Angustia, what is it? Sadness, sorrow? You can't explain it just in one word. So the more you get into that, the deeper you get into emotional stuff, sociocultural stuff in that language and culture, the more you will get connected to those people, right? And definitely, when we talk about connecting with people and trying to convey to them our ideas like we are doing right now, one of the most challenging tasks is indeed to create this, shared meaning, or shared cognitive map. And one of my mentors, Alexander Laschler, was indeed going around it. What if we were to share cognitive map with aliens? How hard would it be? And especially today, while we're in the planetarium, right? Wow. So we are thinking, okay, if we were to meet aliens, how would we communicate? And here's the same. We're all coming from different cultures, right? We coming from different languages, so we are aliens to each other. So indeed, what exists in one culture might not exist in another. So how could we explain that? And what can help us while we travel to connect? So maybe you watch this, yeah, Arrival, yeah. So I feel like you're probably me talking to aliens right now, or maybe vice versa. So here we come to the point of different levels, I would say, of cultural intelligence and communication, connection, when we especially go into another country. Well, there is like a fiction book as well. We're talking about science fiction and planetarium here. And, well, there we've got Earthlings, yeah, people from this planet, and Fravashi. And Fravashi are aliens who are like Tibetan monks. And Fravashi were saying, all right, there is a path to liberation, yeah, so for everyone to be happy, to be content. And they outline this for quite interesting statements. And we could say, like, we could draw a line between, well, that science fiction and also cultural intelligence. Because look, if the first one is simplex, we can say that this is like one worldview when people think that they are right and what is white, what is black. And typically at this level, you will notice a lot of racism is happening and other possible, well, wars, let's say conflicts. A lot of people are at that level. And maybe you know some people like as well in your country, and it's okay, yeah, they exist, maybe they'll evolve to the next level. Then, if you're learning another language and you're getting in touch, you're another culture, or perhaps you're migrating, or like in Argentina, a lot of your people come in from Europe, right? Like they're like your grandpas here, or like aunts, uncles were like from Italy, Spain, Portugal, wherever. It's just amazing, yeah, this diversity. So then there's already complex view. Why? Because suddenly you know like how it was in one country is not the same how it is here, or how it will be in another one. So when you're preparing to travel, you need to remember that it will never be the same. It's always different. And it could be quite hard. However, already opening your mind, being flexible and saying, all right, I need to adjust to another culture, well, because it's just simply not the same, already helps you. Then, when you go beyond that, and let's say you've traveled quite a lot, like today we're going to have a speaker, it's been like in 101 countries, well, I'm really curious about his opinion on that. But the point is, like, when you speak different languages and you've lived in different countries, something shifts, and you get to the level of multiplex when you look at something, well, international. Let's say like an event like World Cup, or let's say, yeah, like World War I or World War II, something, yeah, negative. And you look at it from different perspectives. What I mean, there are many countries, many cultures taking part, and suddenly because of speaking those languages, understanding those cultures, because maybe, yeah, as well you study history, yeah, so you start understanding their motives. I'm not talking about the bad guys, I'm like different, let's say, parts, like why France did that, why UK did that, Spain, etc. And that's already multiplex, because suddenly you start seeing the world in 3D, and it's beautiful, because it opens your mind, it opens your horizon. Well, Omniplex, I'm even not talking about that because this is something that we can't achieve, I believe. It's probably like Dalai Lama. It's when you can't justify anyone. Like, it's very easy, you know, to understand where you are. Can you justify Hitler? No, we are not Omniplex. But we are typically between simplex, complex, and multiplex. And the thing is that each individual is capable of embracing, different views, yeah, concurrently at the same time, right? So you can choose where you'd like to be. And if you feel that you're still, let's say, lacking in that skill, you can develop it. And that's the beauty. And that's the beauty of it, that it's never stagnant. It's transferable skill. And from here, we are moving more into the language part, because I know that you're interested in that. And for me, it's always been that speaking another language, you're like opening the door to another universe. Not just, another world, another universe. And me, being as well a linguist, well, I've spent quite some time, around 10 years, working on my own theory, which is called language alter ego. And that's where personalities come in. So what it means. There are different definitions, I'm still setting on that, but literally it's about creating a personality, right, based on neurogenerated behavior in, particular sociocultural context, your environment. Literally what it means. When in the past I would be traveling, I would be going to study somewhere, to leave, I would indeed feel that something would change in me, but not, let's say, the core part, but like how I would approach the world, how I would approach the contact, like contacting people, connecting with people. And what's beautiful about it, that there is a theory by Carl Jung talking about archetypes and personalities, and then indeed that we all have different personalities. I thought maybe I was crazy, all right, okay, so I have different personalities, but in fact, more and more people confirm that, like during these studies, saying, all right, oh, I feel different, I'm connected to different types of emotions or experiences in those languages. So if you're here, learned languages at school, at university, you're probably like having this like holistic approach, right? So where you're like, okay, yeah, I know how to order coffee. But if you haven't lived emotional experience in the language, maybe a deep friendship, relationship, maybe some of your relatives have been there, right? Like speaking to you in that language, then you might struggle to connect with your inner world, with your inner emotions in that language. And that's what you also need to think about while you are, well, traveling, right, and experiencing, say, other cultures. And what's interesting here, that when we look at it, another James Webb image, that we are all like universes, right? And there are more than 6,000 languages, right? And like more or less same cultures. I mean, even like looking at in India, how many languages they have there. Again, in Latin America, how many, well, extinct languages are there, Asian languages. Well, it's not only, let's say, Spanish and Portuguese, right? There's like Guarani, Quechua, and many more, you may name them. And that's the beauty, that the more languages we kind of start picking up, the more universes, we open up, and we indeed expand our horizon, and we start seeing something that actually is unseen by many because they just don't connect with that culture. So when we are diving into new language and culture, what happens there, we can choose how to behave, right? And we can even like consciously think how to create that personality, that alter ego. And I typically look at these profiles like ambassador, mimic, and chameleon. Like for instance, me having experience going to Iran and working with entrepreneurs there as an entrepreneurial mentor, judge, speaker, I wouldn't speak Farsi, right? But what I would try to do, I would try to communicate convincingly, like in a way that, okay, I belong here. I start learning Farsi, right? I start to communicate to people. Up to the point that somebody would take me for, well, a Persian woman. But then I'm coming here to mimic. And in mimic, that would be the thing, that it's not just about, okay, how can I copy an accent? Start working on, let's say, your personality, behavior, even before you open your mouth. What I would typically do, often in the past, I would sit in a cafe, like first days, and I would just observe people. As I practiced, theater, theater studies, I played a lot on stage, I would actually prepare for my part, for my role. And then I would do the same for like some language, cultural parts. So I would study and see, okay, oh, how do you walk? Oh, he walks this way. All right, how does she order a meal? Oh, this way. So when you come to a new city, new culture, try to catch the rhythm of the city. Just a few months ago, I came to New York for conferences. The first thing that I did, I spent a day walking, just walking, trying to catch the rhythm. And as soon as you feel the heartbeat of the place, of the people, that's the point when you start connecting. Then when you walk, when you start copying them, mimicking, then it's very close to the point that people may start taking you for a local, just because the way how you move, perhaps like how you behave, right? How you treat others, even without speaking. So don't worry about the accent. Like accent, you can work on that, you can mimic, and it's okay if first it doesn't work. Like I've been working with people on accent for quite some time. We've got even the course like juniors accents where we're like playing all around, and suddenly, people say, oh yeah, it's not that difficult. It's about the shift here that you may sound different and you may even feel that something is wrong, but it's okay. Just welcome your new personality. And the same about chameleon. If you can get to this point, Why not? That's great. Some people are natural. Some people may feel that, well, they can just embody another personality and just roll with that. Some people need to study a lot, right? So nurture, nature, nurture. And perhaps if you study a lot and you live in another country quite for some time, you indeed can become, the chameleon. All right. So I love interpreters. Thank you so much there. Okay, so when you come into a new country, indeed think whether you'd like to be with locals or with foreigners. Everywhere, wherever I would go, I would indeed spend quite a lot of time with locals because I love embracing local culture. But it's also true that I have international friends with whom would also gather, like here, in Buenos Aires. And it's nice because, again, you get different perspective and you kind of feel like that you're a different group of experts, another community. But it's up to you. If you indeed would like to dive into new culture, you want to feel how it is, choose with whom to mingle. And some people might say, well, why do we need to spend so much time and on languages and on cultures and developing all the skills? I would say, guys, well, it's a challenge, right? Because somebody would say, even one of my students, an executive program a couple of weeks ago, was like, oh, okay, but we're all human beings. We're all the same. We sleep, we eat, we breathe, we're all the same. Well, this guy, Mathieu Ricard, a French researcher, a Tibetan monk, told me same. He said, listen, we are all same. And he's great. If you haven't watched his talk, watch his talks on compassion, love, intelligence. So a few years ago, funny enough, in Buenos Aires, when I came here for my second visit, my mentors and colleagues were at an educational conference where Mr. Ricard was speaking. And we organized our meeting, bilateral meeting, about this topic, whether we're same or we are different. And we had our friendly debate, at the end of which we indeed came to the point that, at the core, when we are born, we're indeed same. Because we have these 6 basic emotions. Yeah, that's true. It's universally, confirmed. Yeah, we'll have this same emotions. Great. However, what happens as soon as we start growing up, well, the way how our parents raise us, where we go to school, which language we speak, what we do for a living, forms us. And then it creates so many different layers. And the gap, it bees, emerges. And it's our responsibility as adults, well, self-aware humans, to find a way how to bridge that gap. And when we look at, crystals, let's say, in the sun, spectrum, we may see only one side, from our own, our own opinion, our, position, our color. Our colors, maybe a couple of them, maybe one rainbow. But when we start speaking different languages, when we get into different cultures, suddenly we start seeing the light from different perspectives. As I already mentioned, 3D. And that's the beauty of learning all these languages and cultures and actually getting more and more comfortable in the shoes of a local wherever you go. Well, some might say, true, but still, even in the same language, the same culture, we may have problems. There is this big, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Right. However, we're all coming from the Earth, from planet Earth. We are all Earthlings. And me personally, I often love presenting myself being an Earthling. Because I'm an Earthling. I've lived in so many places. My family is so international. I'm an Earthling. So when we think from this perspective that, all right, we are so different, we need indeed to invest some of the time and energy in developing our skills to get to the point of being taken by by locals at local, and then feeling like a local. Well, we still are the same. And when we look at the sky, wherever we are, with whom we are, I even don't know how many nationalities we have here today. we still see the same sky, the same stars, same galaxies. And I really hope that in the time when there's so many wars and conflicts right now, we can indeed think how we could connect via languages, cultures, and create a better connected, multilingual, multicultural world. Thank you.